Welcome to this explainer, everyone. Today, we are tackling a topic that is notoriously a major pain point for ophthalmologists in training, and honestly, even some practicing docs. I'm talking about optics. Specifically, we're going to totally demystify astigmatic refractive error and the power cross. Whether you are a PGY2 prepping for your OCOP exams, gearing up for oral boards, or just trying to survive your daily refractions in the resident clinic, by the time we finish today, you are going to understand this concept at a fundamental, intuitive level. We aren't just memorizing random facts today, all right? We are building long-term clinical mastery. Now, if you look at a power cross and instantly feel a mild sense of panic setting in, believe me, you are not alone. But let me reassure you with this core truth. Once you truly understand its anatomy, the power cross is actually your best friend. It is an incredibly concise, elegant way to communicate some really complex refractive data. So our goal today is to completely shift your mindset from optics anxiety to pure clinical confidence. Let's get into it.
Here's our quick roadmap for today. 1. The power cross anatomy. 2. The classic board trap. 3. The conversion algorithm. And finally, 4. Active recall and pearls.
All right, let's dive right into Section 1, the power cross anatomy, where we'll look at understanding the actual physical properties.
Okay, before we even look at a single diagram, you must absolutely commit this foundational physical law to memory. Listen up, because this is your first major OCAP pearl of the day. The power cross notation rule states that power is recorded on the meridian of power, which is exactly 90 degrees away from the axis of power. I'm going to say that one more time to really burn it into your brain. The power lives exactly 90 degrees away from the axis. So what does that actually look like in practice? Let's take a look. Check out this single vertical cylinder here. Pay close attention to that blue arrow. Because the physical orientation, the axis itself, is vertical at 90 degrees, the curvature, and therefore the actual optical power, acts horizontally. Notice how the +2 power is recorded horizontally on the cross, exactly 90 degrees away from its axis. It's literal physics.
If you ever find yourself struggling with this concept under the intense pressure of your written boards, I want you to use this mental model. Physically picture a literal glass cylinder in your mind oriented right along the axis. If the axis is vertical, picture a tall glass standing straight up. The curve of that glass, right, it goes side to side. Visualize this way, the meridian of power instantly becomes totally obvious.
Now, down in the resident clinic, patients rarely have just a simple single cylinder, right? They have complex lenses. But the absolute beauty of optics is that we can break any complex lens down into its basic component parts. Let's say your patient has a lens that's the equivalent of 2 cylinders, a +2 at axis 090 and a +3 at axis 180. We can draw those as 2 totally separate distinct power crosses, just like you see right here.
And here's where it gets cool. By physically overlapping those 2 separate diagrams, these individual power crosses combine into a single, highly efficient summary of the lens's entire refractive properties. You basically just smash them together. You get one clean cross with a +3 on the vertical meridian and a +2 on the horizontal meridian. It's simple, it's elegant, and it's perfectly ready for clinical interpretation.
Moving right along to Section 2, the classic board trap. Let's dig into the pathophysiology of thought here.
Okay, pay close attention, because here is the foundational cognitive error, and it is a classic board trap. Do not confuse a power cross with a spectacle prescription. They are totally different languages. A spectacle prescription, you know, the actual piece of paper you send to the optical shop, is written in spherocylindrical form. It has a base sphere power that applies everywhere, plus a cylinder power added on top of it. A power cross, however, that is written in cylinder form only. It just states the absolute power of 2 isolated cylinders. There is absolutely 0 spherical power implied in a power cross.
Let's look at this power cross, +3 vertically, +2 horizontally. The single most common mistake residents make here is directly writing out a spectacle correction of +3 sphere, +2 cylinder at axis 090. Please do not do this. If you prescribe that, mathematically it actually converts to a completely different lens, +5, -2, axis 180. You will prescribe the wrong glasses, your patient will be miserable, and you will definitely fail that oral board scenario.
So, what's the fix? The crucial takeaway here is that you must read the cross literally. When you see a +3 at the bottom and a +2 on the side, do not try to combine them in your head. This diagram simply and purely states that the lens has a raw, absolute power of +2 acting at axis 090 and a raw power of +3 acting at axis 180. You have to treat them as isolated physical realities. All right, let's jump to section 3, the conversion algorithm. I'm going to give you a bulletproof method.
We are going to use a strict 4-step clinical algorithm to safely convert any raw power cross into a functional prescription that you can actually hand to a patient. It's a cookbook method. Step 1, separate. Step 2, make the sphere. Step 3, subtract. Step 4, combine. Let's walk through exactly how to execute this together.
Step 1 is purely anatomical. When you see a combined oblique power cross, like this one here with a +3 and +2 on the obliques, I want you to visually and mentally separate it back out into its 2 isolated cylinders. Just pull them apart in your mind's eye. Doing this stops you from accidentally mixing up the numbers right out of the gate.
Now, for step 2, pick one of those isolated cylinders to serve as your base sphere. Honestly, it doesn't matter which one you pick. For this example, let's pick the +3. Now, to make it a true sphere, that power has to exist everywhere, right? So, you must add its power, in this case +3, straight across to the empty arm of its own cross. That establishes your baseline spherical component. All right, bringing it home with steps 3 and 4. Because you just magically added +3 to the system to make your sphere, you have to keep the optics perfectly in balance. You can't just invent power. So you must subtract that exact same +3 amount from the other cylinder's corresponding arm. Since the other arm had a +2, you subtract 3, which leaves you with a -1. Finally, you combine them. Your base sphere was +3, and your remaining cylinder is -1 at axis 045. Voila! Your final spherocylindrical correction is +3, -1, axis 045.
Almost done! Let's hit section 4, active recall and pearls, where we test your new mastery.
I want you to actively pause this explainer for just a moment. Think about those 4 steps we just did. Can you retrieve that algorithm from memory right now? Separate, make the sphere, subtract, combine. We are doing some retrieval practice right now. I'm going to show you some practice crosses, and I want you to actively test yourself before I give away the answers. All right, here they are. Take a good moment to mentally separate these component cylinders. Select a base sphere, remember, either one works, add it across, subtract it from the other side, and determine the exact spectacle prescriptions for these 3 distinct refractive results. Doing this math yourself, right here, right now, is exactly how you build that myelin in your brain to make this totally automatic on exam day.
And just to prove to you how absolutely bulletproof this method is, look at this complex Jackson cross-cylinder refraction. If we apply our exact 4 steps to this messy error of -1 at axis 180 and -5 at 090, we pull them apart, make the -5 our sphere, balance the equation by subtracting a -5 from -1, remembering your grade school math that minus a minus is plus, and our algorithm flawlessly calculates the exact spherocylindrical correction of -5 + 4 axis 180. See, the math never lies.
Let's wrap this up with your rapid-fire OCAP pearls. First, power is always 90 degrees away from the axis. Second, a power cross is cylinder form only. Third, never read a cross directly as a spherocylindrical RX. And finally, always rely on the 4-step algorithm we just practiced. Respect these rules, avoid those cognitive traps, and you will confidently diagnose and prescribe for your astigmatic patients in clinic tomorrow. Thank you for joining me on this explainer. Keep studying hard and trust the process. You've got this.